Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this video we're going to go over the character review of Enigmatic Princess of Zahard. Now before we start, I have one request for you guys. Can we please find the name for this unit? Because every time I had to write Princess of Zahard, I was like, what the hell am I even writing? It was so annoying. I don't know why, but it's extremely annoying. Because we also have another unit that already has Princess of Zahard in the title, in that case. So Princess of Zahard Anak. And here we have Enigmatic Princess of Zahard. So I think we have two options. We either always refer to this unit as Princess, and that's it, or we call her Annie, that is the first three letters of Enigmatic. Or hopefully, once they reveal the name in the manual, we can finally use that, and we can all agree on using that as soon as we know it. So that's kind of the plan. But okay, so that being said, we're going to go over the usual points for this review. So I'm going to talk about how good this unit is, whether you should be summoning for this unit or not, and then we go over the kit and some sort of tips on team building. So that's the idea. We will get started immediately with the first point. So how good is Princess? I will say that she is an absolute beast, but she has one requirement. She needs to get to 10 stacks of the passive. She gains 1 stack every time she uses a skill. So if you have units that can improve the frequency at which she casts skills, so either swiftness buffs or active skill cooldown reduction or energy, whatever that is going to be extremely beneficial for this unit. Before she gets to the 10 stacks, her damage is going to be very, very lacking, and her survivability is basically non-existent. It's still better than most units because every time she uses a skill, she's untargetable for 2 seconds, but the delay between the uptime of this effect is too wide, so she's always gonna get hit most of the times. So you need a team that can protect her. That's your first goal. If you can protect her for 30, 40, 50 seconds, I don't know, depends on your swiftness, your kind of overall account, but if you can protect her long enough, she will then carry your team no problem against the majority of the enemies. I would say the only issue I had with this unit was in dealing with hard mode Xia, the elite spy Xia. She's extremely annoying. She's the most annoying unit in the entire game, and Princess could at times kill her, but I'm only at 340 deficit in hard mode. It's not really that indicative of how strong this unit is, but she's one of the few units that could kill her at that deficit. Probably higher deficit is going to be even more inconsistent, but other than that matchup, I think she's basically okay against anyone. And I was pleasantly surprised when I found out that she could deal with Revolution Bomb super easily. That unit is a major pain point in normal adventure and also in hard mode, and having a unit that can deal with that is insane. And there will be times when it will still time you out because he has a lot of invincibility, and for some reason enemies get a lot of energy in adventure, and it will just be invincible all the time, so nobody kills anyone because you will dodge all the time. It will be invincible all the time, nobody kills anyone. But as soon as he's targetable, he will be one-shotted. So I really like the burst damage that this unit has. I think it's insane. And again, her survivability once she has 10 stacks is unmatched. Really, really insane. But that being said, should you pull for this unit or not? It really depends. If it doesn't mess up your chances of getting maxed out family head units or EX units, because we don't know if for anniversary we're going to get a family head or a different kind of unit, like loose leg, so not a family head. And in that case, like if it doesn't prevent you from getting those units maxed out, then definitely I would say go for this unit. She's going to be used for the next Alliance Expedition boss. She's really good at bossing. I think she's great in adventure as well. But for this, there is one thing to note, and that is, as I mentioned, she needs certain teammates to stay alive, and those teammates are highly requested by a lot of other DPS units. So you might be put in a scenario where you cannot really properly use her without sacrificing some of the other teams. So if you end up using Princess with those supports, maybe other teams will suffer. So it might not be the best option. But we're going to see that once we go over the team building part, and I will share with you my points of views. And then you have to match it up with what you have in your account and decide if this is a pool that you can actually use or not. So yeah, that's basically the logic. I think we can have a quick look at the base kit and the rest of the stuff. So for the base kit, we're going to start as usual from the passive. We have empty one. This is a good effect. This is the 10 stacks I was talking about. So every time she uses a skill to possess, so any of the other possession skill that she has, she's going to gain a possession remnant, max 10 stacks, and cannot be removed with buff removal skills. This is massive. And depending on the stacks of remnants, active skill cooldown is going to be reduced by 1.5 seconds and attack increased by 80%. So this is an unremovable 15-second cooldown decrease and 800% attack increase. This is massive. And when you reach max stacks, you're going to ignore 40% of the target defense. This is also really, really good. And for each buff she has, all skills attack coefficient increase by 30%. There is an additional 20% coming from Revolution, and this can get up to 900% or 1500%. That's insane, and every single skill has basically like multi-hits or damage over time or something like that. And these attack coefficient increase is absolutely massive. So she will literally one-tap a lot of enemies. It's really, really good. Then we have the first active skill. She's going to create a small AoE around her that deals damage every second for 100% attack as damage. We don't care because this is going to be buffed by this passive effect. So really good damage regardless. And then she's also going to gather power in the needle and release an AoE attack that is not too big. I don't know how to compare it to other attacks, but it's not an insane area, but it still hits multiple enemies, so it's nice. When this effect ends, she's going to get a 27% physical pierce buff for 15 seconds, max 5 stacks. They can be removed, but this is a 135% physical pierce increase that in the later stages of the game will be up quite consistently because she will dodge all attacks, so enemies will also have an hard time removing these buffs from her. And even if they remove it, she's going to reapply it fairly quickly. So this is a really good buff to have. Then we have the other active skill. She's going to charge towards an enemy and stab them with the needle, dealing 300% of her attack as damage and immobilizing them for 2 seconds. And then there is going to be a wave crash onto the target, dealing 300% of her attack as damage 4 times. So here we saw damage every second, here we saw multi-hit, and all of those are going to receive this attack coefficient increase, which is again really, really good. And then we have that when this effect ends, she's going to gain 20 swiftness for 15 seconds, max 5 stacks. This is 100 swiftness, a really good number. So really, really good. Then we have this special move. This is also really, really nice. She's going to become invincible, not too important because this is only for the animation, and jump towards the enemy, stabbing them with a needle, dealing 200% attack as damage, and launching them airborne for 4 seconds, reducing their physical resistance by 60% for 10 seconds. This is also nice. It adds up with the 135% physical pierce that you get from the other active skill, and this is almost 200% resistance decrease or ignore, whatever you want to call it, that she has in her own kit. So this is really massive. And then we have another multi-hit effect, 400% attack 5 times. Really, really strong. And then she gains a damage dealt to blue element enemies increased by 15% for 15 seconds, max 5 stacks. This is a decent effect, but not really that insane. 75% damage dealt to blue element. If it was a debuff on the enemy that applied, I don't know, blue element resistance, green element resistance decrease, that would have been a lot better, but obviously not. This is going to be useful more for the Alliance Expedition boss than Adventure, but obviously when you're facing an Urek or any enemy like that, it's going to be decent to have. So we're not going to complain here. Really good base kit, as we can already see, but survivability is really lacking. We don't have anything here that can keep her alive, and also in exclusive equipment we don't have anything. But I heard the survivability boost will be on Revolution 4. So The bare minimum, I think, for this unit to perform, we're going to see later in the investment guide, but is going to be orange from my point of view. So for the Exude achievement, she gains a very important crit rate increase. She's a warrior, so she doesn't have access to crit rate, but she has the crit damage node, so this is a very appreciated buff. Then we have level 1, is a really good effect. Every time an enemy is hit by your skills, Princess is going to pause the active skill cooldown of the enemy for 2 seconds. So this could effectively, in the later stages of the game, prevent enemies from entirely casting their active skills. This is really good if the enemies have annoying active skills. So amazing effect, works great also against a lot of bosses because some of them have very annoying active skills, and this one will basically tell them, okay, you're not going to cast anything. So really, really good. I like it. Then we have level 2, Worthless. When she's a max stack, she's going to recover 5% of max HP every time she uses a skill. It's irrelevant. She's going to be one-tapped anyway most of the times. I would recommend running her with Barry, so there will be scenarios where she actually heals up, but she will get one tapped without parry, so it doesn't matter how much HP you have. Then we have level 3. This is really good as well. We get a 30% crit rate increase and a 25% accuracy increase when a max stacks of the passive, and this cannot be removed. This is really important because together with the 10% coming from the plus 40 exclusive achievement, this is a 40% crit rate increase. Really nice. It will make it a lot easier to build your ignition weapons for her. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Then we have level 4. She becomes immune to status effects while using this skill, means the passive. So once you have max stacks, you cannot be CC'd. This is massive. They cannot stop you anymore. It is really, really good effect. I really like that. I'm not going to say it's redundant because warriors have effect resistance. Definitely effect resistance is going to come into play in the initial stages of the fight. But once you get that, then you're good to go. Like, it's going to be insane. It's going to become literally unstoppable. Then we have the revolution effect. So this revolution effect is also really important because we have the revolution 4 I was mentioning before. Every time she uses a skill, she's going to evade all enemy attacks for 2 seconds. 2 seconds is an extremely short duration, and in fact, in the initial stages of the fight, she's not going to keep it up reliably. But in the later stages, once you have the 15-second active skill cooldown reduction from the passive, then this is going to be up all the time. She will never get hit. It's really, really amazing. And this is also going to increase the coefficient of the passive. We already mentioned that, so 50% per buff up to 1500% attack coefficient increase. Really good. Revolution 5 is a bit weaker, I would say, but still decent because this is going to add an additional hit to all of her skill attacks that is going to deal a very minor attack scaling damage, but it is going to be buffed again by the attack coefficient buff from the passive. So it is decent, but not really too much. I mean, to me, it's a bit underwhelming as a Revolution 5, but it's still decent. It's still good. So we cannot really complain here. Then let me see. Let's go here with the ignition weapons. I think it's going to be a bit tricky to see everything on the screen because it's already cutting off some stuff. Let me see if I can adjust it a little bit without messing up too much. Okay. I think this should be fine, hopefully. I don't know. We'll see. So to me, the best slot in this case would be Barry, just to protect from random one-shots. But I will say there are 2 sets that are pretty much comparable, and those are L set and Alocasia. L is going to be up all the time once you reach 10 stacks, and Alocasia as well. So both of them are going to provide you with permanent buffs. And when you have buffs on you, you're going to get the attack coefficient scaling increase, which is massive. So both of them will improve your damage quite a bit, but that will make it even harder to keep her alive until she gets to the 10 stacks. So I'd recommend going Bari, but if you're really confident and you have a really strong team, or as I'm expecting to happen, Sharon is going to be a really good supporting unit for her, then we might be able to use one of these two. But for now, I think Bari is the safer pick. And I also added idea here just because you could quickly cast two special moves, and then you get two stacks of the passive. You also get the Revolution 4 proc, so you might have a bit better survivability, but to me it's not really that worth it, so I wouldn't recommend it. And then we have the team building tips section. This might be new if you haven't watched maybe the Augustus page in the last time, because I don't think I covered it during the character review for Augustus, but is the only other one unit that has this section here. I'm starting to migrate all the information from the spreadsheet to the website. So this will appear in a lot more DPS units. I will focus on them first. But yeah, basically what we have here is information on what this unit provides to the team. This is going to be mostly useful for supports and those kind of units that will bring something to the table or just be benched because they would be useless in that case. But here for Princess, we have high damage, physical resistance decrease, and enemy active skill cooldown pause. So this is what she brings to the table. What she needs from the team is survivability, active skill cooldown decrease, any kind of buff for the passive effect, and defense decrease because she's an attack scaling. She has a 40% ignore in the passive, but that's about it. And which enemies should you avoid? I wrote nobody because, to be honest, once she is at max stacks, you're good. There is nobody that can stop her. There are some enemies that can time her out, but with enough RNG, she can win. So to me, there is nobody you have to avoid. Maybe hard mode Shia could be one, but that hardly matters, I would say. At least for most people. Then we have the part which enemies is this unit good against, and here again, anyone. She literally works against whoever you want to use her against. And I also wrote the comment about Revolution Bomb being easy to counter with this unit. So that is a really, really positive point from my point of view. Then we have some unit synergies. So we have Albelda because she provides everything that we want. So we want survivability, active skill cooldown, any kind of buff, and defense decrease, and she has everything. So really, really nice, but she needs Revolution 5. Without Revolution 5, she's not going to feel as good, so you could probably find a better team in that case. Another really good option, and especially useful in the mono element teams, is going to be Anniversary Iwa or Iwa Yon Healing Flame, however you want to call her. And she's going to just provide survivability and a bit of utility with the knockback and energy decrease that she has. So really solid. I used her in Ranker Race. That is a mode you have access to after you complete Adventure. There is going to be some different challenges. You will be restricted in the kind of colors that you can use. And there I made a team with just the Princess and Hiwayon, and they could beat a team made of 2 Garam, 1 Urek, and 2 Revolution Bomb. They destroyed them, which is insane. It's not something that is easy to achieve. And with just Hiwayon and Princess, they could do it. So great, great pairing. Then we have Nare, not the best, I will say, but she provides a bit of survivability, a bit of energy. She also has the defense decrease on the enemies, so overall, okay, but not insane. Evan is fine. If you can give him enough energy to always have the invincibility up, then you're good to go, because at that point, she will eventually reach 10 stacks and then carry your fight. You don't need to buffer too much, like with an Albelda, for example. You just need her to stay alive long enough to get the 10 stacks. Then you're good. Then we also have an adventurer Zahard that with Revolution 4, he has a cooldown reduction for the active skill on green allies. That only procs whenever he changes weapon, so only up to 2 times per fight. And it is unreliable because you cannot control when it procs. So you might already have the active skill ready and it might decrease it by 8 seconds and you're like, okay, it basically did nothing. Or other times you just cast the 2 active skills and it reduces the cooldown, so that would be a great time to cast it. But yeah, it's mostly RNG. But it can be used and is also going to distract the enemies for the initial part of the fight, so definitely appreciate it. Then we have Orkney. This is going to be good because it's going to give the princess, if she's the highest attack unit, uh, quite a bit of energy. And she is also going to increase the evasion of the whole team, boosting the overall survivability. If with the 50% evasion increase, your evasion is still not higher than the enemy accuracy, then yeah, probably not a good pick to use. But okay, then we have some basic teams. So I added a monocolor team here, to be honest. Endorsi and Yasracha are not really useful at all. You can just run Zahard, Princess, and Hiwa, and you're good. I think I have to realign it somehow because this title from Yasracha is messing up the layout, but yeah, you get the idea. And to be honest, as I mentioned before, Princess plus Hiwa will be enough. If you really want to, you add Zahard, and that's it. You don't need to add the other two. They're just going to eat the passive stacks from Hiwa, so up to you, but I would just consider these 3 units. I already wrote that here in the notes. Then we have the multicolor team. Maybe I can change the name, but whatever. And here we have a simple team with Albelda, Evan, Bam, and Hockney. So a lot of supportive capabilities. This is going to mess up a lot of your other teams, because the issue with this is that you always have to take into account you don't need one single team, you need multiple ones. And if you start using Bam, Evan, Orkney, and Albelda, that are 4 units that are really appreciated by other DPS, then you're going to really weaken the rest of your team. And it's not something I really like to do, but I think that in general I could fit Princess fairly well, because really she doesn't need all of those 4. She needs just what you're confident enough to keep, I don't know, the fight going for 30-40 seconds without her being hit, and then she will carry it. Albelda drastically reduces that time because she has the active skill cooldown reduction on the special move. So every time she uses a special move, then Princess is going to use the active skills, which is really good for Princess ability and also for stacking up the passive. So Albelda is overall the best support for her. And if you have that, you don't need then Bam, Oakley, Evan. You can use other units. You can use just some stall tanks. You can go for units that can CC the enemies a little bit so that they are stunned. And in the meantime, Princess can stack up her passive. But yeah, there are ways, there are a lot of things you can do. Remember, your number one focus is survivability. If you have that, she's going to perform. If you don't, then yeah, she's gonna suck. Now for the investment guide part, and yeah, luckily everything can be seen here on screen, I added as mandatory orange 4. To be honest, she works a 3 red, but she doesn't have any survivability, so you will have to protect her not for the initial fight, but for the whole fight. Like, she needs to stay alive for the whole fight. You need a team that can reliably make her immortal, basically, which is hard to do. So I recommend Orange 4 for that reason. It's going to be a bit harder than a Rainbow 5, obviously, but she's going to have that invincibility at the end. I also have to mention that unless your swiftness is really high and you have other units that can boost the swiftness, Orange 4 is not going to be enough to have a 100% survivability in the later stages, because max cooldown reduction is essential on her. And that's why my recommended is going to be Rainbow 5, but okay. Other than that, let's quickly go through the other points. So we have plus 30 exclusive equipment, because we saw the plus 30 effect is nice, is the status effect immunity, so really good. Obviously level 6 report for hitting enemies. Only slot 2 level up, this is the one that gives crit rate and crit damage, pretty obvious why. Then for ignition weapon, you want to focus on crit damage increase and physical pierce. But for the slot 5, I added a note here. You can also run critical hit rate main stat. You can do it. The main goal is that you get around 70% crit rate and then as much pierce as you can. If you have a piece that is better with critical hit rate main stat and then has, I don't know, 17% physical pierce in the subs, then definitely go for that. And then hard focus on physical pierce in all the other pieces, or kind of up to you. But definitely, at the very minimum, get 70% crit rate and then all of it in physical pierce. How you achieve it is up to you. So if it's physical pierce or crit hit rate, again, doesn't really matter. You could run effect resistance here in slot 4, but she's a warrior, so she already has it in Revolution. And as we know, with the plus 30 effect from the exclusive equipment, she's going to be immune to status effects, so we don't really care too much about that. And yeah, for recommended substats, we just have physical pierce, crit rate increase, crit damage increase, accuracy, evasion, and attack. Evasion only if you have enough to make it relevant, otherwise it's entirely worthless. And yeah, we have Revolution 4 is the maximum you can get. Here is the cost that it would take to get effect resistance and crit damage increase. Actually, it's wrong because I forgot to add the level to this one, so it should be higher, like 22,000-ish. But yeah, I will fix that later, where I'm going to add the crit damage increase, the level 20, and yeah, okay. Other than that, let's move on to the recommended gear, and this one, you can see there is the updated price with the level 20, fine. And here we have Rainbow 5, 35 exclusive equipment. This is important for the extra crit rate. You know, it's always better to have more. You could also go plus 40. You definitely won't lack those resources and you can invest them for your DPS. We have some additional levels for the ignition weapons. Nothing much changed here. Actually, it's exactly the same logic as before. We have Revolution 6 with max cooldown reduction, most important node, effect resistance, crit damage. And this is more or less the cost to get the unit to this investment. 3,500 green Revolution mats, 46,000 orange Revolution mats, and 400 purple. This is overall pretty cheap, so she's a cheap unit to build. She doesn't need anything else that comes from the warrior subnodes because they are really bad for DPS units. So yeah. And for nice to have is exactly the same, but we have plus 40 exclusive equipment, plus 20 in every single slot in the ignition weapon, and that's it. There's literally no difference from recommended to nice to have. And yes, guys, that's all that I wanted to share with you. Let me know if this format with the new information that I added here on the website is good enough. And then over time, I will populate every single unit that we have in the game. And for, again, this part will mostly be for DPS units. I think for every unit, we will have the general information here, but only for DPS, I will focus on synergies and basic teams. Maybe if we have a unit like an Evan, that I want to say you really want to use him with Bam or Mamanak or whatever, or like Iwa, that we really want to use Iwa with Mamanak, I will add it. Otherwise, no. Like I will not really do a monocolor team based around Evan. Like, who am I going to use as a DPS? There is too much choice, so it doesn't make sense. But definitely, general information and maybe one or two synergies, I will definitely add them. So yeah, that's all, guys, for this video. I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this, if you have any ideas on improvements. If you don't agree with something I said, I'm always open for any kind of constructive dialogue. So yeah, looking forward to that. See you guys in the next one. Bye.